na crayon byose hanyuma mukadushushanyiriza ibintu mwaba mwarabonye byababaje mu ntambara kuko ntawakwishimira ko ahita akoze umuntu aho gatoki mu gisebe ntawabikunda buriya rero ni ukugira ngo ahubwo musa n'ababyibagirwa kuko birimo kubavamo mwe kubibika muri byo amakaramu muyashake kuko twaba dufite ayibara gusa none se ayibara niyo mushushanyije
maze njyewe nari ndi kumwe na mama na basaza banjye batatu ahasigaye baraza bica mama babanje twarasohotse tugeze hanze bamutema amaguru n'amaboko ntibyavaho hanyuma njyewe ubwo ngubwo twari turi kumwe njyewe bankutubwira bazi ko napfuye hanyuma ndagenda ntabwo naje kumenya niba yarapfuye cyangwa niba yarabayeho.
Marceline was wounded, her right arm burned by a grenade. She received a machete blow to her head. I asked her where it happened. She started to cry, so I didn't press her. Then she told me, I came out with Mum. The grenades exploded and I fell, but I watched my mum die. After that, my mind's a blank. Then I met you. That's Marceline's story.
aramufashe amuteye icumu mu mutwe amukubise n'inkoni ku kaboko n'ishyamba. Uyu nguyu nawe n'intera hamwe yari ari kumwe n'uyu mwana amubonye nawe aramutema amukubita n'inkoni nawe aramwica.
We found approximately 500 people. The majority is people under 18 years of age. Many of them were children and infants, babies on their mother's back. They'd been killed by machete, a heavy knife, something like that. This is really one of the first opportunities the dead have had a chance to tell their story. And we've been very patient, and we do this work all over the world, and the dead are patient. They'll wait 10 years, 14 years, 20 years. The flesh may disappear, the bones are usually there, and they have a story to tell. They have a story to say, well, this is how old I am, this is my nutritional state, this is the bones I broke, this is the bones that healed, maybe this is the kind of work I do, and this is how I died. And these people down here, this is like an echo chamber. It's an echo chamber that resonates with the testimony of the living witnesses. And these people, these dead people, are telling us the same story that the living witnesses have told us.
Je ne sais pas où on a enterré mon épouse et mes enfants.
I don't know where my wife and my children are buried.
Je pensais bien que je pourrais.
I hoped I would find their clothing,
Mais je n'ai pas trouvé.
but I haven't seen any that belong to my family.
Et ma famille. Souvent, je pense à ça.
I think about this a lot.
Je peux vraiment être tout à fait triste.
I'm often depressed, discouraged. I withdraw to hide my sorrow. I try to keep to myself.
It's not the peace of the dead that we're talking about here. It's the peace of the living. The contribution that these dead can make to the living, make to the tribunal, make to the investigations, resolve questions for the living victims, put their minds at rest as much as possible. These dead contribute to life. It's horrible that they had to do it in this way, but they do contribute to life. And we hope it'll contribute to a better life for us all, especially for the Rwandan people here.
Alors peut-être peu à peu, la réconciliation va se faire. Mais
Perhaps, little by little, there will be reconciliation, but not quite yet. It will take time. I don't know how long, but I can tell you there's no reconciliation for the moment. Maybe you don't see so much hate among people on the surface, but when you think about what happened, it's not yet time to forgive and forget.
I knew I would find so much despair. I was right. There is hardly a family in Rwanda that hasn't been affected. The whole nation is in mourning. But I wasn't prepared for so many human rights violations on the part of the Rwandan Patriotic Front.
Yambi, Titi, I'm a Kurchima. Jiho, Coco, Yambi, Coco. nuko abiwacu se bameze bati
papa na mama baracyari ku gikongoro bari kwajera Dominique ari kumwe n'abana be hanyuma mutetera ari cyarwa ari umugabo we ariko nawe nta kigendano se ntiyarapfuye
yishwe n'iki
paramwishe
intera hamwe se
ibi yohani wacu yarapfuye yohani ntuza albert yarapfuye
interahamwe se zabakuye
ntabwo duhamye ko ari interahamwe ni fpr bapfuye roturu kandi yari fpr ni nabyo kuko bamaze kubica bari kumwe na mariya na mediatrice mariya wacu babiciye isofu kuri konfige barabafata rero bose babarunda ahantu batoranyamo ba medi kuko basa n'abatutsi batoranyamo mariya wacu ndetse agarukira ku rupfu inshuro nyinshi mariya bamujyana n'umuhoro gutyo umuhoro umeze gutyo umusirikare umwe akavamo ati ndamuzi ngo fande uwitwa ngo fande muri aba akavamo ati ndamuzi w'umuganga baranamuzi aracyari nini ngo inshuro 3 zose ababwira rero ko wamuzi ariko atamuzi ni nka chance ubwo rero icyo gihe nta muhungu mukuru warokotsemo niho bayohani baguye.
Il y a beaucoup de gens qui ont été tués par le Front patriotique sur sa colline.
Many people were put to death by the RPF on her hill.
C'est des sortes de règlements de compte.
It was a settling of accounts. Those singled out were executed point blank.
Muri iyo minsi muri uwo munsi ro premier hishe bombi FPR interahamwe zisha bari basigaye bihishuye bahunga FPR nayo yazasanga imirambo aho ikica n'ababihasanze.
La première fois que nous sommes arrivés, nous avons célébré une messe à la basilique.
When we came back here, we held Mass at the Kabgayi Basilica. At the end of Mass, an officer appeared, a major, I think. He was actually the prefect of Gitarama. His name is Georges Sewayana. He arrived at the basilica with his bodyguard, saying he wanted to see the head of the diocese. That's me, I replied. He said, "You cannot hold Mass without my permission," adding, "Show me papers authorizing you to live here, or I'll force you to leave." "Sir," I replied, "be logical. You tell refugees to return home. I return home and you threaten to make me leave. I won't leave. I'm not going anywhere. This is my home." People were afraid because in certain places the RPF were also conducting massacres. They actually killed a large number of civilians. I've discovered houses that had to be condemned because they were full of rotting bodies. In some houses there were hundreds of bodies, in places such as Mbare, Kianza, Kieza, and elsewhere. I don't want to lay grounds for speculation, as it has been the case recently, but in my own village, I personally counted more than 200 people who'd been murdered by the RPF.
The lists on this table contain the names of those killed by the Rwandan Patriotic Army after they took control of Gitarama district. These lists were drawn up by local residents as a means of sounding the alarm.
Ces listes ont été données à M. Twagiramungu en juin 95. Gitarama est une région qui est connue pour être irrédentiste.
Gitarama is a region known for its strong nationalist tendencies. The 1959 Rwandan Revolution began there. The inhabitants are very aware of what goes on. So they were the first ones who dared draw up lists to prove to the Prime Minister the extent of the army's doings throughout the country.
Ici, vous avez la commune de Nyamabouye.
This is Nyamabouye commune. Here you have the names of the victims, their fathers' names, their place of birth, and the date they were killed, in July and August. Some were killed in September. That's how the lists were drawn up. In this commune alone, 1,723 people were killed. I've compiled all these lists for a total of 18,000 people murdered in the Gitarama district alone. I've been a member of the RPF since April 1991. I know a lot about the massacres committed by the Rwandan Patriotic Army. The RPF wanted to establish its supremacy, and to do so they had to eliminate any potential rival.
On a connu surtout, et c'est de cela que je parle maintenant, de ces cas où l'armée va chercher des jeunes gens.
In many cases, the army came for men ages 15 to 55 and took them away by night, never to be seen again.
Et qui ne sont plus revus. Et que les familles passent leur temps à chercher dans toutes les prisons du Rwanda et qui ne voient pas.
Their families searched them in vain in the prisons of Rwanda, but they all died at the hands of the Rwandan Patriotic Army.
Le pattern général, c'est qu'on s'en prenait d'abord à des jeunes gens et à des messieurs capable encore en âge d'activité.
The general pattern was to select youth and men who were still active, as well as leaders, teachers, farming instructors.
Les moniteurs agricoles, tout le monde qui pouvait jouer un rôle.
Anyone who played a role, any community leader was particularly singled out.
Était visé de manière tout à fait particulière.
On nous a transférés à Gabiro.
In August 94, we were transferred to Gabiro camp. We got military training there. That's when I first began to have doubts about the RPF. I was in the medical corps. One day, a friend asked me to sign a paper authorizing him leave on medical grounds. I asked him what was going on. He told me that every day he was assigned to what they called manpower duty. He described how prisoners were taken to a specific place, and what went on there? They were killing people. First, their arms and legs were bound. Then they struck them on the forehead with a hammer or something hard. My friend had been doing this for 5 days. He told me he'd counted at least 6,000 people. Afterwards, they set fire to them with petrol and wood. The remains were buried by bulldozer and tractor.
Gabiro, c'est dans la parc national de la Kagera.
Gabiro is located on the hunting grounds of Akagera National Park.
On allait les tuer là-bas.
They took people there to slaughter them. It was an ideal site inside the military zone. Nobody was permitted to enter, except for the military intelligence, the DMI.
Chaque fois, vers 6 heures comme ça.
Every evening around 6, we'd see smoke. It wasn't buffalo burning, it was human beings. Every single day I felt sick. I could smell this horrible odor. No one could protest. I was acquainted with some cases of people who showed signs of depression. They were killed. They couldn't cope, so they also had to die. When they began to ramble, to say certain things, they were eliminated.
Soon after the RPA seized control in each place, there were large-scale executions. That lasted until approximately September 94.
En un an, j'ai eu l'occasion d'écrire 700 lettres.
Over the space of a year, I wrote 700 letters, a minimum of 2 per day, to alert the Vice President, General Kagame, to what the army had done. I told General Kagame that if we weren't careful, there would be nothing to differentiate us from the army we had managed to defeat. Our soldiers were repeating the very same acts.
General
Kagame said that in the first place he wasn't obliged to respond to my letters. Secondly, he considered that I was accusing him of incompetence in his ministerial duties. Thirdly, he said he would recommend to the president that I be named defense minister. That was to ridicule me, of course. During the meeting, Kagame picked up his briefcase, and in the presence of the president and the whole cabinet stormed out of the room. They tried to get him to return, but to no avail. That was August 25th. The next day, there was a cabinet shuffle, a house cleaning. In other words, instead of seriously attempting to discuss such problems, General Kagame chose the strong-arm method.
Quand nous avons commencé à dialoguer avec la population,
when we talked to people, we discovered there were many orphans, many widows, many homes in ruin.
un Rwandais qui n'a pas un chez-soi.
A Rwandan without a roof over his head is not exactly dangerous, but he's very vulnerable.
Et ce qui a été adopté comme, disons, méthode de travail, c'est de faire en sorte que...
So we organized a way of bringing Hutu and Tutsi together on building sites, making bricks and so on.
Qui se rencontrent. Au début, ils étaient vraiment bloqués, ils ne se parlaient pas, la communication ne passait pas.
At first they wouldn't talk to one another. There was no communication whatsoever, they just glared at each other. But as they worked side by side, they got tired and hungry at the same time and would take noon break together. And sometimes while relaxing at lunch over a bottle of local beer, the ice broke little by little. To make a long story short, gradually, as the walls went up, their minds opened. Some Hutu and Tutsi even started sharing their beer. It was wonderful.
Ce qui est merveilleux. At
Kabgayi and elsewhere, there were campaigns of slander, lies, arbitrary arrests, imprisonment, and so on, based on rumor. But wherever we'd begun building houses together, We noticed less lies and slander, fewer attempts to have someone jailed in order to make off with his house and belongings.
ahangaha wabaye iki ni umupanga ni isasu hanyuma ahangaha hindukira gutya izi ni inkoni kandi ndabona ari bishyashya ni ryari se baba bagufashe zuku
He was arrested on September 13th. That's when he received these beatings.
The
military tortured him. He was bound and beaten. They tie your arms behind your back, and the wire cuts into your flesh. They used electrical cable. Here are more marks from the blows. And this is a fresh wound. 2 months ago, and it hasn't yet healed. They haven't yet recovered, because after they were tortured, bound, and cut up like that, they were thrown into the hole for an entire week, so the wounds became infected. Look at this. The arm is completely paralyzed. The muscle must have atrophied. This man was tied up at Gitarama, right at the spot where they captured him. He was bound from behind and suspended from the roof. He twisted and turned while the soldiers beat him senseless. He lost all feeling in his feet. He has no movement in his ankles either. And this hand is dead.
Je me sens un peu trahi.
I feel betrayed somehow. I've discovered horrific abuses by people I used to trust. There's been so much revenge, so much greed. Moderate Hutu have no place in this country. All Hutu feel they're being branded as murderers.
Parallèlement, faisant les enquêtes sur le génocide des Tutsi.
While investigating the Tutsi genocide, I collected thousands of eyewitness reports on massacres committed by the RPF. In my region, the RPF came in quickly. The genocide began on the evening of April 11th in my area. At 1 p.m. on the 19th, the RPF arrived in Wamagana. And by 6 that evening, bodies littered the road from Wamagana all the way to Kayonza, as witnesses testified, including members of my own family. Some victims still lingered in the throes of agony, which means they'd been attacked around 4 or 5 that afternoon. People were still crying out in pain. Witnesses report that these people had gone to a meeting called by the RPF on the day of their arrival and were slaughtered right there. April, May, June, that's when many mass graves were discovered. I found at least 7 in my district. You come across perhaps 30, 15, or a dozen bodies lying together. People say, over here are victims of the RPF, and over there, victims killed by the militia. An investigation would not be difficult, except that now people are afraid to talk. When I arrived in July, people trusted me, they knew me. They told me everything without hesitation. I began to receive threats from the military intelligence, the DMI, because I was interested in what had happened to people reported missing. Thousands of people had disappeared and were rumored to be in detention somewhere. I traveled around, visiting the official and non-official jails, interrogating prison authorities and directors, but to no avail. Outside Gitarama prison, on my visit in January '95, a DMI agent from Kibungo called. Come over here, I have something to tell you. I parked the car nearby, and he warned, listen, you'd better be careful here. Don't hang out in any nightclubs or sleep over in Gitarama. Because we, the DMI, have been given the mission to get rid of you, to kill you.
Nous avons reçu une mission de te zigouiller, donc de te tuer. Alors, depuis, j'ai fait attention.
So I took his advice. I didn't stay in the country much longer. That was in January. At the end of February, on the 27th to be exact, I left my country and went into exile here.
Mon pays pour venir m'exiler ici.
Au cours du premier semestre de l'année 95.
In early 1995, there were about 165 deaths each month.
65 morts par mois. Je suis moi-même entré pour visiter.
I've come to visit this prison to see the situation firsthand.
Il y avait 3 couches.
There were 3 layers. Underneath were the dead prisoners lying on the ground. Then those crouching who were in the process of dying. Then there were others who could still stand even though their tibia bones were actually starting to disintegrate like a melting candle.
Ces gens étaient entassés, ils étaient 5 au mètre carré.
They were squashed together, 5 to a square meter, upright, virtually unable to move.
Les besoins naturels, ils les faisaient là-bas.
They were forced to stand in their own feces, which caused their feet to rot. It was intolerable.
Des pieds, c'est des situations insupportables.
A UN officer had a macabre experience here. A prisoner ripped off his own big toe and threw it in the officer's face. This was his response to the officer's words, "We've come to see your living conditions." He saw all right.
Le délégué de la Croix-Rouge nous a écrit en disant qu'il y avait 292 cas.
The Red Cross delegate told us that 292 prisoners had gangrene. It was catastrophic. We had no choice but to amputate.
Voilà, celui-ci il était amputé ici.
This patient's been amputated at the Kabgayi hospital. We started the amputation lower down, but that wasn't sufficient. We had to amputate higher up. That one as well. This is a similar case. The mucous membranes were terribly infected all the way up, forcing us to remove the entire leg. This one was lucky. He only lost a foot. But that patient lost everything. That one as well. Luckily, this one had only a partial amputation. This man as well. Here's someone who almost lost the whole foot. Only the big toe is left. And this man's lucky. We might have amputated higher up, but when we operated, we realized he was starting to heal. He lost the other foot. He lost his toes, and here, half a leg.
Il a perdu ses orteils, et ici il a perdu la moitié de sa jambe.
Alors moi j'ai dit, écoutez, si on n'agit pas, on va avoir, cette prison va devenir un mouroir total.
So I said, if we don't do something, this prison will become a morgue. Each and every prisoner might die. I made a decision which may be my undoing, but which I'll never regret. It was urgent we do everything in our power to improve conditions of detention. That's when I decided the prison must be enlarged. We increased it by 4,000 square meters, 80% of it under roof. And thanks to hospitalization, by the end of last year, there were no more deaths in Gitarama jail. Sure, they remain prisoners. There are murderers among them. We don't pretend they're all innocent. But it's not for us to sentence them to death. It's not for us to decide how prisoners must die before they've gone to trial.
how many people do they want to try seriously? How many people are they willing to execute if it comes to that? How many people are they willing to imprison, and how are they going to provide for their long-term imprisonment? All of these are issues that I think have not been resolved in the government, and because they haven't been resolved, it leaves the way clear to a small group of extremists to use the judicial system for their own political ends by incarcerating people for their political beliefs on the accusation of genocide.
Radio Amahoro, radio iharanira ubwumvikane n'imibereho myiza y'Abanyarwanda.
Imyaka igiye gushira ari 2 ingabo za FPR zifashe ubutegetsi ku ngufu mu Rwanda. Hagati aho Minisitiri w'Ubutabera yashyizeho ba procureur by'agateganyo. Bamwe muri bo batangira gutotezwa nk'uwa Butare na Kibuye. Uw'Ikibungo we yakoreraga mu biro bigoswe n'abasirikare ku buryo akorera ku bwoba. I Butare abasirikare bahise bafunga subtiti wa mbere niyo mugabo Enoki wari woherejwe kujya kuyobora iyo pariki. Abaziyenzacyaha, abashinjacyaha cyangwa abacamanza bafunzwe barengana bazira ubwoko bwabo ku buryo bisa nk'ibigaragara ko barengana. Ilisite ni ndende.
Le FPR lui-même a peur de la justice.
The RPF itself fears justice because they have committed crimes and continue to do so. When someone feels guilty, he tries to create a phony system of justice in order to manipulate the law in his favor.
Dore nk'uba perezida hafi ya bose b'inkiko za mbere ziremezo baherutse gushyirwaho batoranijwe mu bwoko bw'abatutsi.
Alors, qu'est-ce qui se passe aujourd'hui?
So what's happening today? You have the official government trying to rebuild the justice system just like any other country.
Mais vous retrouvez en coulisses.
But an underhand form of power exists in the back corridors, an invisible parallel government that monopolizes, impedes, and paralyzes everything in its path.
Bimaze kugaragara ko ubutegetsi bushya butifuza gukorana na benshi mu bacamanza b'abahutu bahozeho muri Repubulika ya Kabiri. Kuba umucamanza w'umuhutu muri iki gihe ugashaka gukomeza gukora akazi kawe bisa no kwiyahura.
On February 26th, the Rwandan Patriotic Army made an attempt on my life. It's hard to accept that my nephew, who was with me at the time, was more seriously wounded than I was. It's a heavy burden to bear. I got into my car, rolled down the window, and started the engine, when I saw a young man draw his gun and fire at me, point blank. Luckily, in the second I saw him pull the pistol from his pocket, I had time to protect myself like this. And the bullet hit my shoulder instead of my head. It entered here and came out at this spot I'm touching.
J'ai entendu la voix de mon oncle Seth en disant « Ah, je meurs !» Juste il est tombé sur mon côté là. Il était à droite en fait. Moi j'étais à gauche. Il est tombé sur moi. Mais je n'ai pas entendu le bruit. Je n'ai pas entendu le bruit, mais on avait déjà tiré sur lui.
The police arrived and arrested the man. He identified himself as secretary of the Rwandan embassy in Nairobi.
Son personnage qui se trouvait sur le lieu.
The individual found on the site of the attack, in possession of a firearm, with a silencer which the police attested was still hot, was in fact a Rwandan diplomat.
Un diplomate rwandais.
C'est dangereux. C'est dangereux.
The situation is extremely dangerous. You must be careful, watch what you say and write. People now in power are not used to governing under what you might call normal conditions.
If
you don't agree with them or you criticize the way things are done, they won't tolerate it. You must be extremely cautious, particularly when it comes to editorial commentary. That can irritate them no end or make them very nervous. And when they're nervous, they become trigger happy.
Ils peuvent aussi avoir la gâchette facile.
I believe the campaign to slander my name is linked to my stance on human rights, and also because as a journalist, I say things that don't always please those in power. In any case, we're trying to be responsible and carry on with our work without cowing to any authority, religious or political. When we hear the outcry of the people, we try our best to listen and see what we can do to bring some relief. That's all.
Le 27 juillet 95.
On July the 25th, 1995, Placide Colonier was assassinated at his home just after his release from jail. A few days later, on August 1st, Oreste Abinshuti, sub-prefect of Gikongoro, was also killed. That same day, August 1st, Father P was gunned down as well. I discovered his body among the banana trees where he had fallen. He was lying exactly in this position. You see that spot? It's blood. The head was here, and the body was lying stretched out on the ground up to here when I found him. They pointed the gun barrel at his head. You could tell because his hair was singed. It smelled of gunpowder.
C'était mon ami. J'ai été amené à prendre la parole comme responsable.
He was a friend of mine. As head of the Diocese of Kapgayi, I delivered a homily. My dear brethren, when it comes to survival, we have no doubt chosen the wrong path, the way of the cross. If we do our duty well, we will have to go the way of the cross. They will surely hang us. But if they kill us at work, in the course of duty, that will be our glory. Personally, that's what guides me. Anyhow, one fine day, the sun will no longer rise for me. Whether I'm in charge of a diocese or running a newspaper or at the head of a human rights group, I have chosen the way of the cross, and with a bit of luck, I will probably be hanged for having done my work properly. That's the way it goes. During the genocide, we saw Hutu risking their lives to protect Tutsi whose lives were in danger. But now we're seeing a backlash against people who took risks to protect others. They're being imprisoned or killed. This undermines and completely destroys any confidence anyone might have in the new order. So now some people regret that they ever helped the Tutsi. There's a potential danger that once again this country will be divided into two camps, Hutu on one side and Tutsi on the other. And if ever another ethnic upheaval occurs, which is not unlikely, I think many, many more people are bound to die.
There are those reluctant to believe, or who would believe from time to time. There are those like us who look at these ruins today as though the monster were dead and buried beneath them. There are those of us who take hope again as the image fades. Those of us who pretend all this happened only once, at a certain time, in a specific country. Those who refuse to look around us, deaf to the endless cry. Jean Quérol, survivor of the Nazi Holocaust.